I'm Patrick Bailey with whiteboardcoder.com. Today is March 27th, 2017, and in this video I'm going to be going over how to install syslog-ng on an Ubuntu 16.04 server and how to do some configuration settings on it. Okay, installation is really easy, so here I am just going to do a lsb release-a just to show you that I am on Ubuntu 16.04. And then we'll just do a sudo apt-get install syslog-ng and a -y because for a yes. And it's really that easy. Give it a minute to install. Well, not even that, it's pretty quick. Okay, now that's installed, the fun part is trying to read it and understand how the configuration file works if you're not familiar with it. Now, I am by no means a expert on syslog. I just had to deal with it recently, and so I went and did a little research to get my understanding of it. So this is not going to be some crazy in-depth thing, but it should be good enough to get you started. So go in here and edit the syslog-ng configuration file, which is at etc syslog-ng syslog-ng conf. So open that guy up. And then I'm going to give an example here. So I'm going to look for syslog 3. Do a little. Anyway, I'm just going to look at this. We're going to start here. And so there's already a bunch of logging configuration already set up in this thing. So it's already logging a bunch of stuff. But I wanted to use this as an example to show you how to set up your own, which I'll do later on this video. But here we're going to start here. So here is our actual log definition. So here I'm going to log this. And the first thing I'm going to go over is sources. And so here you can list your sources. And so here it says source sr underscore src. And this sr underscore src is another variable. And so the line numbers here. If we go back up to the top, we'll see we have sources listed. Hey, I guessed the right number, 20. So here is a source, and this source is labeled sr underscore src. So that's what it's referring to. And here you can set up all kinds of sources. You can listen to network UDP and TCP, and you can do some networking stuff, which I'm not going to do here. I'm just going to kind of use the default here. And so in here, there are two things. And this default they give you is system and internal. And if you go over here to this website, which I should have a link to it in my notes, you'll see there's information on here. So if you're using system, it talks here about the system right there and what that's going to include. And what it tries to include is based on whatever OS you're on, it tries to log system logs. And so if you scroll down a little bit here to Linux, you'll see here that it's trying to look at dev/log, which is a socket. So anything that goes to dev/log will be ingested by this. So that's one of its sources. So that's good for us Linux guys. And the next one is internal. And if you look up internal, I don't know if it's on this page or not. Well, it's on another page. Internal is basically internal syslog error log. Its own logs are going to be sent based on this. So in our case, don't really care about this, but it's definitely going to listen to /dev/log. So there's the source. Now the next thing I'm going to go over is there's your source. Go back up. What number am I on? 132. So that defines what this is listening to for this particular log. So the next thing I'm going to go over is filters, and that gets a little bit more complicated. Okay, filters. So here we can see we've got this filter defined here. So here's a filter, and it's referring to f underscore syslog3. Now that f underscore syslog3, just like the sr underscore source, is just a variable. So if we do a search for it, we should find it's used by a few of the things. Oh wait, no, here it is right here. Okay, 112. So here's the filter. And so what is this saying? So what this is saying, clean that up a little bit. So what's this saying? Here's the filter. So there's the name, filter, and then it says, and then here's the rules on the filter. So it says not facility, and it lists a bunch of things that it can't be. So now the first thing you got to do is understand what a facility is, which I didn't understand a few days ago, so I had to go research this myself. Now, if you go into facilities, and I'm going through their documentation here, they describe different facilities based on what's coming through. And so basically there's a whole, a log protocol, which I'm not going to go into, and I'm probably not going to even bother learning myself. But part of that log protocol says what facility is. And so there's some default facilities that have facility names or a number. And so they go down here from 0 to, it looks like 23, and there's kernel, user, mail, Damien, etc., etc. And so basically you can come down here and define which ones you want to use and which ones you don't want to use. So in here, I'm saying not, do not use auth privilege, and mail. So basically anything else at any other facility I'm going to use, except for those three. So there's mail, auth, and where's auth privilege? There you go. So those I'm ignoring. Now I could go in here and reverse it. And if I said facility, and just to use the auth, then only logs that have auth in it would go through. But we'll leave this as is. And then after that, and I say and not filter f_debug, you can actually put these together. So you can actually put another variable in here. So up here, there should be an f_debug somewhere. There it is. And then you have to follow those rules. So that says for fdebug, it has to be a level of debug. And that's another thing. You can set the level. And I have, this is my own documentation over here. You can set the level. And so the level, you have 0 to 7. And here's the names: emergency, alert, critical, error, warning, notice, information, or debug. And so in this case, because it is debug, it says, this filter says only let debug level logs come through, and not, again, the facility, auth priv, news, and email. But in this case, I am using this. So if I come back down here to see what I had before, now if I had and filter, then both rules would have to apply. So it would say it can't be one of those three, and it would have to also follow the rules of f_debug if I did it that way, which means it has to be a debug log, and it can't be one of those. But in this case, it reversed it. And so, and say not. In this case, it reversed it. So since it reversed it, it cannot be a debug. So anything but debug. And also it cannot be, and also it can be an auth privilege and that. But I think the main reason to do this not debug is they want to get everything but debug. Okay, so there is, I think that covers it. So there's the filters. The filters can reference other filters. The filters can filter on facility. That's the type of log. And they can also filter on the log level. And if you're used to something like log4j or something like that, debug, info, they don't use the same nomenclature, but close. So emergency, alert, critical, there's a one-to-one mapping in there somehow. But anyway, that's the filter. Next, I'm going to go over, there you go. I'm going to go over destination. So what can we do? So we know our source. In this case, the one we get the internal, which we don't care so much about right now. We do get the system, which is going to be /dev/log. And then we're using this filter, which is going to get everything that's not debug and not those facilities. And now we're going to send them to this destination. But let me go over destination here in a second. Okay, destination. So here's my current destination for this one. The destination is d_syslog. So I'll just do a search for that. And there it is. And so here we can see it's pretty simple. It's just saying, hey, For this destination, send it to this file. That's all it does. Pretty simple. So now that we understand all the parts, hopefully I'm explaining them well enough. Let me see. I'll just go over one more time. So here's our source, which is a name source. In this case, it's listening to the system stuff and the internal. We only care about the system right now, and that's listening to /dev/log. Also, the filter is basically not listening. It's listening to most of the facilities, most of the types, and it's not listening to debug. But everything else it's pretty much listening to. And the destination is varlog syslog. So that is it. Now I'm going to run some tests and actually send some logs to it so we can see the output. Okay, let's test this out. So if I go down here and tail varlog syslog, I already did some little tests there, so we'll run it again. I'm going to use this logger tool just to send some logs to it. But before I do that, let me check out the status of it's running. So status syslog ng, and it's running. So good. So now we can just send a log. So do logger -p, and I'm going to do a local0.info. And so what that means in this case, if I look at here, we have these local zeros, which are supposed to be meant for your applications. And I have 0 through 7. I'm going to do local 0. And then info, if I go look here, I can see information info 6. So it's just a convenient way to do both of those. So it's going to send a message as that, as a local 0.info, and my message. And it comes through just fine. So it's working. But now we also know that it's not going to take debug information. So if I send debug, it doesn't go. It goes to the syslog system, and it may be being logged somewhere else, but it's not going to this file, syslog, varlog syslog. It's not going there. Also, we know it's not, I think it's filtering out auth. So I could do auth, and it's not going. Also, we know it's not doing kernel, so I could do kern, and there we go. It's working. So that's all tested out and working fine. So now the next thing to do is actually go configure it to actually send logs to a log file, to use syslog to log your own stuff. So have your own stuff come into it, probably using local 0 or local 1, and have that go to a log file that you want. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and actually edit the configuration file, but as I do it, I'm actually going to break it the first time so I can show you how to see if it actually will reload correctly. And it took me a little bit to figure this one out, because I'm a little slow. Okay, so let me go down here. I'm going to make a new thing, but I'm just going to make some bad code. So that should not compile. That's got a problem. Now if I save that, whenever I save that file, it's not going to automatically reload. I have to do sudo system control reload, and then do syslog ng. But what I want to do also is while I do that, I want to go tail varlog syslog, because those internal errors for syslog are going to go there. So I can go here to examine if I have any problems. And also, if your successes, it'll go through there too. So now if I hit this, I should get, right there, error parsing. Because if you're like me, you're gonna fat finger something and put a colon where it shouldn't be. And I always have issues with parsing my file. So now if I go down here and I'll just comment it out. We can see configuration reload, request received. So that's good. It's just good to watch that while you do this, if you're going to make mistakes. If you're mistake prone like I am. Okay, so we're going to make a new one. Now in this one, I want local 0. I'm going to do local 0 everything but debug. So local 0 info, local 0 critical, all that stuff. So in that case, I can And I'm going to look at, I want everything coming from devlog. So I will just repeat and use the same source. And for filter, I'm going to make a new filter. I'm going to call it my app. And for destination, I'm going to do my app again. So that should be okay. But we're going to have a problem because if I try to run it like that, I think it should barf at me because those other variables don't exist yet. Yep, error parsing, you can see that. So let me go make those. I'm going to come down here to filters and f_my app. I don't think these have to be in order, but they seem to have them organized, so I'm going to keep with that tradition. And I want facility, and I want local 0, and maybe local 1. Well, I'll just do local 0 for this. Local, I just want my one app, whatever that's going to be. My one app's going to send logs to local 0. So I should say it's going to send it to dev/log as a local 0 type. And not, where's the debug one? Because I want debug and level, there we go. And not level debug. Okay, I think that should work. Okay, so this filter should say it has to be a local 0 and it has to not be debug. Then I should just need a destination. So I'll go down here to destinations. My app. File. And then I'll just do var log my app. And I think that should be everything, unless I fat fingered something. So let me save that and reload. Oh, I did something. Error parsing. Okay. Well, here's what I do when I get these errors. First, I go down here and I'll just wipe out this section. Oh, well, that's probably the problem. Well, maybe that's right there. I think I'm missing a there we go. I think I'm missing a semicolon. Let's try that. Good, took. So we should be good to go. It's ready to receive. And the other good news is because that local 0, if I send local 0 info, it's also going to go to syslog. So I can keep watching syslog here just to make sure that goes through. So let me go back to my history and do a logger. So I'll do here a logger local 0 info my message. So that should show up down here, and it does. But let me see, that hopefully should have made my new file. And it did. All right. And there we go. I got my message. All right. And so now it shouldn't do debug. And it's not. Let's try info again. It's getting that. Let's do local 1. And local 1's not going in. So perfect. That's working as expected. I guess I could do local 0. I know what my other options are. Critical. Let me look. I'll just try crit. Maybe that'll work. The critical should go. Okay, it goes through. So critical goes through. So that's working as I intended. Everything but debug is going to that log. And that's a test. So next thing, I'm going to go write a simple, tiny, small Python program that's going to utilize syslog protocols, and it's going to send stuff to dev/log, and then it should pop out here. Okay, now on to writing some Python code. So I'm going to just write a test. I'm going to write log_test.py. In this case, I'm going to make it a little, I'm going to do some cut and paste and explain what I did. Okay, so here I'm just using their, let me see, bigger, there we go. So here I'm just setting up a simple logger, and I'm setting the logger to, debug level, so it'll handle everything down to debug. And then here you can see I'm using the address dev/log, so I'm sending the logs to /dev/log. And then here you can see the facility name, and I'm using the variable syslog local 0. And then I'm coming down here, and I guess I don't need that line of code. And I'm setting a format for my log, no big deal, just something simple. And then actually down here I'm just setting an info and a debug and an error. So nothing much to it, but it's got a problem. And I'll go through that here as I'll show you. Let me make it executable. Okay, now if I go down here and I start tailing syslog, which is going to get everything, including local local 0. And if I run this, I get my information. So I had an info, an error, and a debug. And we're filtering out debug even on the syslogs. But I'm here, you can see I get the info and I get the error. So it's working. But there's a problem. And the problem is, if I go down here, let me stop. If I go, that stuff should be running to my app. It's not, though. And the reason is there's some kind of bug out there. So I should be running this. It should be showing in my app, but it's not. It turns out that the variable there, local 0, is not what it should be. So if I do a quick print on that, you see I'm getting the number 128. And if I look over here on, let's see if I have it open, or I'll go look at my website, because if I look at the facility levels, their numerical codes, here they are, 0, 1, 2, 3. So local 0 should be 16, but I'm getting the number 128. I don't know why. Is it a bug in Python code? What did it work in Python 2 and not in 3? I'm not going to even bother investigating. But that's why it's not working. In fact, if you go, I went down and ran a test. Let me see if I should have it down here. There you go. I ran a test. So local 0 is 128, 1, 136. So you can see all these numbers are wrong. And they should be 16, 17, 18, 19, etc. So the easy way to fix that is just to hard code it, which is what I decided to do. So you went to local 0, just wipe that out, put in a 16, which is equivalent to local 0, and run it. And look, and lo and behold, I have my messages. So they're coming through, but same thing, the debug is being filtered, and so it's working. So, cool. And so I can see all that stuff coming through as intended. So here I have a basic Python program using their logging, the logging handlers, and using the syslog handler. That's the important part, which knows how to talk to syslog. And I'm getting my stuff routed where I want it to go. So it's working. So there's that one bug. There's how you use syslog. There's how you get it to route to where you want to be, where you want your log files to go. One last thing I'll go over, that's a little bonus, is I'll go over log rotate. Because if you're going to have logs, you want to rotate them, and syslog ng does not do that. You need to use the log rotate tool or some other kind of rotating tool, but I'm going to use log rotate. I'm going to go over that real quick. Okay, the log rotate tool is pretty easy to use. It's already pre-installed, but I'm going to go make a new log rotate configuration file for this one app. So to do that, I go into etc log rotate -d, and I'll just make a new one. I'll call it my app. And then I'm just going to paste this information in. And then what this does, and there's a lot of other little tiny configurations you can do. This is not all of them, and it's not going to work for every single kind of log file you have because there may be some issues. But what this is going to do is it's going to look at this. I should change that. It's going to look here, var log myapp-log.log. And it's going to do the following to it. It can copy, truncate. It's going to handle a date extension. So what it's going to do is when it takes the current log file and rotates it out, it'll actually add a date format to it. And so here I have a date format. It'll put an underscore and then a year, a month, and a day. There's other little things you can do there. And the current extension is .log, so it's actually smart enough to put the date format in between. And then here it's going to run daily. If it's missing, it's okay. And then here I say to rotate it every 15 days. I should say not rotate. Rotate it daily and keep 15 daily copies backed up. So it'll keep 15 days worth out there. So it'll have, I guess at most 16 files. And then it'll actually erase the one. So you only have as many as 15 days with this one. There's other things you can do in here. I'd have to go look them up, but you can compress it, which I'm not going to do right now. But there's other little features, and you can look those up. But this is kind of a basic. Now, if you do that, you save it, and tomorrow it'll run. So it'll pick up those changes. I don't have to restart anything. But if I look at etc. cron tab, down here you'll see your cron daily. Let me move that a little bit so you can see a little better. So here's the cron daily, and you can see here, in my case, it runs at 6:25 a.m. And I can go look at those files. Where are they? Etc. cron. So I can go cron-daily, and in here you'll see log rotate. There's the log rotate file that'll run every day at 6:25 a.m. Now, rather than wait all that time, there's a couple things we can do to make sure our file is okay. So I can do log rotate -d, etc. log rotate configuration, and I can run that, and that's going to give me a whole bunch of information, and it's going to say when those, if that is needed to, it's going to say what files are going to be log rotated out, and amongst these should be my information, and there it is. It says my app does not exist. Oh, I called it my app, not myapp.log. That's my problem. Okay, let me go really quickly fix that. In syslog. I should have made that .log, because much better way to do it, in my opinion. Okay, now it's fixed, but I need to reboot that. Reload. I should have said reload. Syslog ng. Okay, and then I can make sure that took. Okay, request received. Good. And then I can go tail my app -log, which does not exist yet because I haven't thrown any files to it. Let me go put some files in there. Now it exists. So I'll just run that for kicks a few more times. Okay. Now if I go run that again, the log rotate check, I should see that it's happy. It's always good to test these, right? Because you forget to put .log in there, huh? Where are you? And I just scrolled right by it, huh? There it is. So there's a rotating pattern, myapp.log, after 1 day, 15 rotations. So it looks good. Now to make your life easier, you have to do this because it's not a direct output. And you could do, I had to go figure this one out. Myapp.log -a4. Yeah, a little ugly, but at least you grep it down, right? And so it looks good. Now, another thing you can do is you can actually force the log rotation to make sure it's actually going to do what you expect it to. So if I look right now, var log myapp, I'll just do myapp star. I mean, there's that old, let me remove it. There's that old one, var log myapp, which is no longer be used. Okay, so just myapp-log. So I can force it. I can do sudo log rotate, force, dash force, etc. log rotate, -d, and then my log configuration for this myapp. Skipping because set as you. Oh, I probably. Oops. Parent drop has insecure permissions. What does that mean? Another reason to run these things, because there's issues. Okay, I'll go investigate that issue and figure out what it is. Okay, I swore I did this yesterday, but I did it after, didn't do it initially, I did it after a few days, and maybe that is why. But effectively, there's a bug in there. This will work the next morning at 6:25 a.m., but there's a way to fix it, so it'll actually do it right now. Rotate, -d, myapp, and I can come down here and use a switch user. So I would switch user to root and admin. And I think that should work. Which is what it effectively does, because I think that is actually in the configuration files. Yeah, see it's changing to root syslog. Well, maybe I'll be root syslog. How's that? Okay, now let's force it and see if it works. Should have worked. So now if I go look at my files in there, it moved that one over. And we can see that it did append the date perfectly. So there you go. So that's how you do a log rotate. And just remember, syslog ng is not going to do the log rotations for you. And so if I let this run every day, I'll get a new, it'll rotate out every morning at 6:25 a.m. in this case, and I'll keep 15 days worth of logs. Then at the end of the 15 days, it'll just be deleted. So there's how you, so that's it. That's how you set up and install syslog ng and do a little configuration and get your, at least a Python program logging to it. And there you go. So hope that was helpful to somebody. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give it a like. To subscribe, just click the subscribe button. Also, you can follow me on Twitter under the handle @whiteboardcoder.com. View any code I may have thrown up as a gist at GitHub under the username PatmanDenver, or check out my blog site at whiteboardcoder.com.